So those of you who've been a fan of my YouTube channel for a long time, over a year or so, most of you probably remember I used to make a ton of videos on how to get better at League, which revolved around mostly focusing on your own mistakes and taking responsibility above all else. It's a hard thing for any of us to do. You guys have seen me get salty on stream plenty of times, but in the end it's what we need to do to get better, and for the most part I think I've done a decently good job in convincing most of you that stuff like Elo Hell doesn't exist, and you should focus on yourself more than anyone else when looking as to what went wrong in a game 95% of the time. However, today I want to take a video to talk to you guys about this subject one last time, since there is something that I never got around to talking about when I was making these types of videos a year ago, and might actually be pretty informative, especially to some of the newer players out there today who only started playing League of Legends in Season 3, Season 4, or any time later than that. For those of you who weren't around back in the day, we didn't always have the League system that we have now for Ranked with the LP setup and everything. We used to use the ELO system, the same ranking system that they used in chess. Around 1200 is where everyone started off, which was considered average, and depending on what queue you were in, you would hit your medals at certain ratings. For solo queue, for instance, bronze started at 1250, silver was at 1400, gold at 1520, and platinum was 1900. You were generally considered good back then if you were in upper gold or platinum, and pros typically floated around the 2000 ELO ranking or above in Season 1, which steadily grew as time went on and as Riot eventually introduced Diamond. Now, Riot hasn't been hacked that often or had that many issues with their security in the past, but there was one time that somebody did breach their security and started having a little bit of fun. One of the things they did was mess around with certain famous players' ELO. Pobelter, for instance, was given 9,999 ELO and could never find a gaming queue because of it, while Saint Vicious, on the other hand, was given one ELO, and being the entertaining person that he is, instead of just waiting for Riot to fix all this mess, he proceeded to have some fun on stream with his viewers, duo queuing with the lowest rated players that existed and carrying some of the lowest rated games. Obviously, a pro player and one of the top junglers in the world at the time was able to stomp and nearly dominate all his games regardless of who he played or where he played them. However, there did end up being one game where he lost. It was a game where he played jungle Alistar, and he did very well, obviously, but because he picked a very support-like jungler who's meant to give kills to his team rather than take them himself and carry, he ended up losing. Because of the loss, a few people went on the forums and complained, saying that this proves Elo Hell exists. If Saint Vicious himself can't carry this rating, how on earth can I? This is such a flawed mindset that you should never have, only looking at that one game he lost and ignoring all the others that he was able to win over and over again. But a lot of people out there say very similar things today. Look at this small number of games I lost because of a troll, an AFK, a DC. Theoretically, every game could be like that, right? This proves I can't carry. That's the same thought process as Saint Vicious's example and what happened to him back then. But in the end, it's ultimately flawed. Not every game you play is going to be that way. We all do lose games if certain things go wrong, especially if you get an AFK or DC or someone who intentionally feeds and not just somebody who plays badly. But even if you do get those in a few games, you can always carry yourself out of your rating if you play an extended series of games and not get hung up on the individual ones. The majority of games you play, you can make a big difference in to decide which team wins, for better or worse. A lot of you probably heard the term cognitive bias and maybe heard of the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is at work here. The definition of the Dunning-Kruger effect being where an unskilled individual has illusory superiority, meaning they think they're better than they actually are, which prevents them from recognizing their faults and keeps them from improving. That's exactly what Elo Hell is, honestly, but it's kind of funny the situation that arises from it. A bronze player who believes he actually deserves to be in silver isn't only not in silver because he's not working towards improving himself to get silver, that bronze player isn't in silver because he can't tell what makes an actual silver player. The qualities you have to identify what makes a silver player are the exact same qualities you have to be a silver player. Now, I don't want to get too mean in this this video or get too negative towards anyone who's frustrated that they're stuck in whatever rating they're stuck at. And I'm not trying to insult you, believe it or not, but just to sort of give you guidance onto how to get out of whatever rating you're stuck in. I suffered from the exact same issue being Platinum 1 this entire past year. When I was Plat 1, I honestly thought there was no difference between me and a Diamond 5 player. I thought the only thing standing in the way was me getting a lucky streak of games to eventually hit my promo series. But in the end, now that I've actually made it to Diamond 5, Diamond 4, I can say there is a clear difference between Plat and Diamond, even in something as little of a gap as Plat 1 to Diamond 5. Platinum players, for instance, have fantastic lane mechanics. They only get a little bit better in Diamond from what I've seen, but Diamond players have much better decision making, especially in the late game. To be honest, I think one of the reasons I even made it to Diamond was I finally stopped taking Ignite as a top laner and switched to Teleport. I wasn't just focusing on winning my lane alone anymore, I was working on trying to have better map presence later on in the game, making good decisions on what sort of fights to engage, what sort of fights to not engage, and of course to where to use my teleport ganking, split pushing, and all that jazz. Now, whether you're bronze or diamond, we've all suffered from these issues before. I'll proudly admit that I've had problems with it in the past, and honestly, it's not anything to be ashamed of. The best thing to do if you're truly stuck in a rating, if you've hit a brick wall, is to just see what issues you share with your teammates and look at your League of Legends career as a career, instead of focusing too much on any individual game. You won't know how to get that slightly higher rating until you're actually there and have learnt it, so I highly suggest that you do your best to just focus on that climb. It's fine to get mad at your teammates every once in a while, as long as you don't bring it into chat or anything, but always be looking for that next level of play and how to improve your own play to get there. Thank you very much for watching. Good luck in solo queue, and have a wonderful day.